Hello there.
So if you're new to my channel, you know that a lot of the stuff that I cover on my channel is actually usually just Godzilla leaks or kind of giving my commentary on different trailers that come out for the movie, or kind of where the state of the MonsterVerse is at the moment. I do my best to stay out of the YouTube controversy and any sort of drama with other YouTubers as much as I can, but sometimes there are some people that just have to be talked about, and Dr. Skipper's recent video on why Godzilla doesn't work in America has to be addressed because, to be honest, I think this guy is just a complete grifter. I think he has a super opinionated video, and we're going to get into why it does not work in this video. If you guys enjoy my MonsterVerse content, consider subscribing, and let's get into it.
The Atomic Fair.
So I had to sit through 28 minutes of Dr. Skipper, 26 minutes or however long the video is, of Dr. Skipper talking about why Godzilla doesn't work in America. And even just being 2 minutes into the video, 2 or 3 minutes, it's pretty obvious that this guy is just a grifter who's probably playing off of the hype of Godzilla -1. I don't want to completely shit on him in this video because I am kind of going to take a pretty big dig at him. But before that, I kind of want to give credit to some of the ideas that he is pushing in the video. One of the reasons that he says Godzilla doesn't work in America, which I'm going to address later in the video, but he basically says that every time that they make an American Godzilla movie, they turn Godzilla into a silly hero, and they are afraid to just let Godzilla destroy New York and actually be a symbol of destruction. They have to turn Godzilla into an American hero, unlike the way that they do Godzilla in Japan. The only valid take that I see there is it has been a while since we've seen a Godzilla movie where Godzilla is just a complete villain in America, but it's not like it's something that hasn't been done before in America either, right? Because we had the 1998 Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie where Godzilla was, even though kind of a sympathetic character, you could definitely just see Godzilla as a villain in that movie, and definitely spent a large majority of the movie just running around New York causing destruction and killing people. His video is pretty much broken up into a few segments covering different topics, from Godzilla 2014 and why that movie wasn't really that good, but why it was one of the better Godzilla movies, to why Godzilla -1 is the best Godzilla movie, and to why Godzilla 1954 was a metaphor for World War II in Japan, and basically also pushes the idea that Godzilla, the very first Godzilla 1954 movie, was a cool movie similar to Jurassic Park with a lot of cool metaphorical undertones that really just turned into a franchise that ended up becoming completely silly and getting milked to death. Now, all of those arguments can be made somewhat valid, but similar to the Jurassic Park franchise, see, what happened with Godzilla is it grew to be a lot bigger than just a 1954 movie. Similar to the very first Star Wars movies as well, right? The original trilogy of Star Wars was a very confined story, but after those movies, the Star Wars universe expanded greatly because of the love that people had for those movies. Same way with Godzilla. Not only did Toho, I guess, arguably milk Godzilla for the money, but fans grew to love the character and they grew to love the films that were being put out, and Godzilla grew to have its own fan base. Even if things became silly, even if things became somewhat like a kid's movie, at some point a Godzilla fan base still grew and became a very memorable part of people's childhoods. And similar to the Star Wars universe, Godzilla has kind of grown beyond its roots now and is very much a character who has garnered a massive fan base and sort of built up his own lore as well. And that's kind of the problem that I have with Dr. Skipper's videos. He basically just has the whole grifting take that has been heard many times before, that Godzilla is silly, that Godzilla, the very first movie, was a cool concept, but it was turned into a silly franchise, and that Godzilla doesn't work in America because they won't make Godzilla a proper villain, and they keep turning the movie into silly Hollywood gobbledygook. I just think it's a very edgy perspective. I don't really think it's valid at all, to be honest. And I think similar to the people who hate on Star Wars or who hate on, I guess, Jurassic Park or any other franchise that grew past what it originally was, it's just kind of a tone-deaf take that doesn't really take into account all of the perspectives that people have around Godzilla. See, now, with the almost 75 years of history that we have now of Godzilla, it's very obvious that the character can't really be put into a box. We have many different versions of Godzilla. We have animated versions of Godzilla. We have various different versions of Godzilla put to film. Hell, we even have like a T-Rex version of Godzilla, of course, that came out in the 1998 American Godzilla movie. The truth is that Godzilla doesn't have to always be a super serious, dark-toned character that's some deep metaphor and undertone for World War II. Obviously, there was other ways to capitalize on Godzilla's character that Toho took advantage of. And similar to Kong being a metaphor as well in the 1933 film, he kind of grew beyond his roots. People, for whatever reason, are just naturally drawn to really big, really cool monsters. And Godzilla is no exception, so I think to kind of minimize the massive fan base that has grown around Godzilla, to label all the other movies kind of silly and stupid, I just don't think is really looking at things with the full perspective, like you kind of should if you're going to assess something and put out a really heavy critique of it. Now, going into it, I kind of thought that he was going to say that Godzilla doesn't work in America because the whole concept of Godzilla is just stupid in general. But all in all, his video in general is a very hot and heavy kind of opinionated take that just really doesn't take into account the full perspective of Godzilla as a character. And it's very obvious that he did not grow up with the Godzilla movies or kind of have a love for them as a kid, that he doesn't understand the Godzilla fan base and he doesn't really understand the entirety of Godzilla's character. On top of that, we have also had really serious versions of Godzilla like Shin Godzilla in 2016. But like I said, there are some valid takes that he has, like the idea that America won't really commit to making Godzilla a complete villain in the same way that Japan will, and kind of tying that back to World War II and some of the metaphors with the nuclear bomb. Some of that stuff I think is valid, but to write off Godzilla completely as a character and say that he just doesn't work in America, I do not think that's valid at all. I think honestly this kid is just kind of capitalizing on the hype going on around Godzilla right now, and is just trying to be the edgy hipster kid who has the opposing take to modern day culture, because now Godzilla is kind of starting to gain some more popularity and respect in the West, especially with the release of Godzilla -1. You have to have people like this who come out and say, oh, Godzilla doesn't work in America. Godzilla has been silly ever since the sequels to the original 1954 movie, and they moved away from the original ideas of what Godzilla was and kind of have ruined the character. And then his super opinionated take on dissecting Godzilla 2014. Yeah, on top of that, there's plenty of other like just logistical problems for the video. I think his editing is way too fast and spazzy. I think his points are really all over the place, and I don't think that his video is very centered and is like a well-written scripted essay that he kind of turned into a video or something. He's just kind of rambling and yapping on, giving an opinionated take on Godzilla and Godzilla 2014, why Godzilla 2014 is stupid, even though he says it's one of the better Godzilla movies. He says that and then proceeds to kind of go in on the movie. I think all in all, guys, it's not really something that we should pay too much mind to, and I think honestly Godzilla as a character is going to continue to grow in popularity and respect, especially in America, especially when there's kind of a void that needs to be filled with the Marvel movies right now, where Marvel was kind of popcorn movies, but they were also quality good movies that told good stories with good messages. I think there's a big hole for that stuff now, and I think that the MonsterVerse could actually potentially come in and fill that gap a little bit, along with some video game adaptations and maybe DC if they decide to step up to the plate. I think the MonsterVerse could play a big role in filling the gap in the void that has been left by the lack of quality Marvel movies. But anyways, comment down below whatever you guys think about my take on Dr. Skipper's video. I mean, all in all, I didn't even go into like all kinds of facts that he had wrong about Godzilla and calling Godzilla public domain, things that other people have already touched on in other videos. But this also kind of goes into the video that I made about D-Man. I think the Godzilla fan base is in a really good spot right now. I think it's a really loyal fan base that's really loyal to the character. I think it's kind of interesting to see the Godzilla fan base kind of unite against this guy. But anyways, comment down below whatever y'all think about this video. And really for this take, guys, that's all I got. So until the next one, be safe and stay well. Bye-bye.